Oh.
Hello, everyone. My name is Triple P, TRIPPLE and I am your astrology pimp, your astrology prophet, and your astrology priest. And today's 7 Series Astrology Prophetics video topic will be sexual discipline and game is a must. So, for those of you guys have seen my foundation videos, who am I? All of those videos are basically talking about getting a full understanding of who you are first and foremost, because without knowing who you are, you will stand for nothing and fall for everything. So, why is sexual discipline important in game? As far as I'm concerned, having sexual discipline is almost one of the most fundamental principles that one must have in order to be successful in game. Because once you get involved in the dating world and you actually accumulate a few relationships, you will most likely encounter strong sexual desires that you may not be able to control. However, in the dating world, the guy that actually has the most discipline usually gets all of the girls. Because for one reason or another, it just simply is attractive to the opposite sex to actually show some type of restraint and that you have control over desire and lust as well. So that is why, again, it is at the utmost importance to have sexual discipline, because when you develop game to a certain level or degree, in the very first beginning, it may not be so obvious that you need to have standards, scruples, and morals, because in the beginning, most guys just want to get all they could get. However, as time goes on and you develop some type of standard or some type of stipulation, depending on who you date, then sexual desires must be held at bay. Because what's going to happen is, let's say, for example, when you get a girl and that girl might like you very, very much, but you actually do not have any sexual control, that actually, in the very beginning, it may be, somewhat she might be flattered that you find her to be sexually attractive, and she might, like it at first. However, if you are a guy and all you do is show that you have no sexual discipline and you always want to have sex all the time, over a period of time, unless the girl is maybe a nympho, then it's not going to be necessarily a problem. However, if you are a regular guy dealing with a regular girl, again, yes, it may be somewhat flattering in the very beginning, but however, if you do not show that you have some type of discipline, that you could go X amount of time without having sex, it actually weakens the relationship. And that is why all players from the Himalayas usually talk about having rotations. And as we all know by now, in the game, there's a concept, principle that having three O's is too close to two, and two is too close to one, and one is too close to none. And that way, and again, I'm not advocating that you guys go and shoot for rotations. However, I'm just stating that the less you have, if you have one girl, most likely you will be more likely to be depending on that one sexual partner, and you're going to put a sexual strain on the relationship. Because as we all know, women are very emotional and fickle in every which way. And so therefore, if you have a woman and you're depending on her solely on sex, then over a period of time, there's going to come a time that she may not necessarily want to have sex. She may be feeling a certain way. She might not necessarily want to engage in such activities. And you being the guy that does not have any sexual discipline, you're going to demonstrate First, you're gonna actually sometimes you might actually become angry, or you might, become like a disgruntled employee, if I may say. So that is what I'm saying. And then the girl is gonna think that you are inconsiderate. You can't think about the fact that she may be sick, or she may be going through some emotional problem on a job, a family, certain things of that sort, that she may not necessarily want to engage in sex, because again, women are very emotional and very sensitive towards their feelings. So if a woman does not feel like having sex, and you feel like having sex, and you push for sex, then that could be somewhat of a problem. That is why I'm stating that, you guys, again, I'm not advocating for having polyamorous relationships or multiple relationships. However, if you can, and you can, or you are a high top tier guy, and you have the high SMV that allows you to do so, then do so. However, the average guy is not going to have that luxury to have multiple women online and beck and call. And however, there are some guys that actually have women that knows about each other and actually engage in sexual activities at the same time. But however, for the average Joe, that is not the case. That is why, again, if you guys go and watch my very first beginning videos, I created a video called How Did I Get the Name Triple P? And there was a video that goes in extensive detail about my sexual history. And then I created a video entitled How Did I Go? I think 2,190 days, if I'm correct. I could be wrong, but don't hold me against it if it's incorrect. 90 days without NoFap. So you guys have to actually practice some of these principles, some of these practices, such as semen retention, NoFap, things of that sort is going to allow you to get the sexual discipline that you need. And actually those practices, semen retention and the sacred secretion and NoFap, all of those things are actual spiritual practices which actually goes hand in hand with the sexual discipline. So one must actually have sexual discipline, and along with spiritual discipline or some type of spiritual practice. And if you guys go ahead and watch any of my very beginning foundation videos, all of those videos are putting emphasis on knowing who you are. Know thyself. I cannot put enough emphasis on the fact that you first and foremost should know who you are before you pursue anything. I'm not saying that it's going to be the case always, because everybody is going to have to learn the hard way. But in most cases, almost 99% of the time, men pursue women for the wrong reasons. 99.9% of the time, men pursue women without knowing who they are. 99.9% of the time, men pursue women thinking that the woman will complete them. 99.9, when the woman leaves, most men fall apart, because the man never knew who he was before he met the woman. And when he met the woman, he actually tend to believe that the woman was a part of him. And when the woman leaves, he feels like a piece of him is gone, and he no longer is the same person. So again, having some spiritual practices is going to lead to having sexual discipline. And I don't care whatever you believe in. You could believe in God, Allah, Buddha, Shiva. It doesn't make a difference who you believe in. I don't care if you even believe in a rock. I don't care if you pray to a tree. I don't care if you pray. I don't care what you do. However, you need to come and find yourself in some greater way than who you are. That who you think you are just not the body. You are just not your job. You're just not your looks. And you are just not your money. That is why, again, all of these videos, this channel started out being somewhat of a spiritual channel. However, it is based on spirituality. However, I am an astrologer, and I deal with all types of areas holistically. And I am also a dating coach, a life transformation coach, and so forth and so on. However, dealing with men, I see that there's a huge imbalance in the dating game, in the relationship world, and men tend, I believe men have lost their way. So again, I'm creating these videos to assist men to actually stand on some type of solid ground so that they may not be misled or used and abused because of a misconception of a female nature. And again, I love women. I love the way they are. And in fact, as far as I'm concerned, I would not have it any way. And I pray that they stay the same always. Because again, more bitches for me. So anyhow, with that being said, I think that spirituality is mandatory, and spirituality is going to give you guys the discipline that you need to help you further develop the sexual discipline that you need. Again, practicing NoFap, semen retention, and the sacred secretion. Because, for example, the average guy cannot go, per se, 1 week without sex, and if he can go 1 week without sex, he's gonna most likely masturbate at some point or time, one time or another. So, for example, I would again go back, and there's another video that I created titled "Will Wet Dreams Ever Stop?" And I spoke about being on semen retention, practicing the sacred secretion for over 6 years. And I talked about how wet dreams were prevalent in my life, no matter how. It was almost 2 years before the wet dreams stopped trying to practice semen retention, because I was still doing a lot of things. I was still dabbling with women. I was still getting women. I was talking to women. I was approaching women in a sexual way. Despite the fact that I was not sleeping with them, I still was just on the edge. So my body was always still, on the verge of releasing. So again, but however, over a period of time, my desires got less and less. I still love bitches now. I don't want anybody to misunderstand me. I still have a desire for sex and all of that stuff. It's just that my discipline is to the point to where if the person or the circumstances is not correct, I could live without it. I'm not just going to sleep with any girl off the street just because. Women now have to meet certain criteria and certain standards for me to actually even kiss a girl, let us much talk about sleeping with a girl. So, but in the beginning, I had no such thing. I did maybe have standards in reference to the way the woman did look. However, I had no standards in reference to what I required of the woman. I just thought that I wanted the body, I wanted the sex, and that was it. So I'm saying to you guys, having sexual discipline in game is mandatory, because once you don't have the thirst for the sex, then you could actually stand their ground and you could show discipline and behave in a masculine frame always. But if you are thirsty and you have no leverage in reference to having some control over your sexual desires, the female is always going to be in the one with the upper hand. We see this all the time. Men in relationships, marriage, men in relationships, when the relationship is a problem, the man must go sleep on the couch. That happens for a reason, because the woman knows that the man is so enamored about sex and her body, and she knows that the man cannot go too long without sex. So it's like putting a dog in the dog cage, and if the dog lives in the house and the dog actually is accustomed to being in the house, when you put the dog outside and you leave the dog outside, the dog will whine and cry until you let the dog back inside. So women treat men like that if they have no sexual discipline. Men are treated like dogs. They are actually put outside in the dog cage because the woman feel that they did something that was not satisfying to her liking. So again, when men understand the importance of having sexual discipline, only then they can actually stand their ground and they could actually stand for something and not fall for anything. Because again, in most cases, 99.9% of the time, like I said, women almost come to the table in most cases with absolutely nothing. I'm not saying all the cases, but in most cases, if you ask a woman what does she bring to the table other than her looks, other than her sex, she will tell you some generic answer that almost every woman answers. And most men, because most men only care about, for the most part, looks and sex, they accept the woman as is, and the woman does not bring anything else to the table other than sex. So again, also you could guys to go and watch my video entitled "What Do I Need from a Woman?" That video goes into extensive detail as well, talking about how I don't really need sex from a woman as well. I'm not saying that I have no desire for sex. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I will just, I'm trying to be a saint forever. I'm just saying that my standards have risen to such a degree that sex is almost a reward for a woman now. From my perspective, women treat men like sex is a reward. If they behave correct, then they get sex. I am one of those guys. I'm not gonna sleep with you if you're acting foolish or behaving in some type of way, mistreating me or behaving in a disrespectful manner or just harshly tone of voice, consistently just being rude or whatever the case may be, arrogant or entitled, whatever the case may be. That is why I said you guys have to go and watch all of my videos in reference to the dating game. Men must learn to see women through the eyes that women see men. When a man learns to see a woman through her eyes, only then a man can see himself as the prize. Because women think that they are the prize, and men think that they are the one giving out the prizes to the woman. However, men are the prize. I'm not saying that women are not, just doesn't have any value. I'm saying, because I'm talking about men now, because women automatically think they're the prize. I am trying to get guys to think or know that they are the prize as well. So again, a man who does not have sexual discipline, he most likely is going to tolerate almost anything. If you look at many relationships, I guarantee you almost 110%, there's so many men in relationships, not because they really like the girl or love the girl, it's because they do not have game, they do not have high self-esteem, they do not have self-worth, they don't have high self-value, they don't have self-discipline, they do not have anything that motivating for them to believe that they could do better. They don't think that they could get another girl as easy. They think that the girl that they have is the best girl and they can't do any better. And that is why most men stay in relationships, not because they love the girl, it's because of sex. Casual and consistent, frequently sex. That is what the man stays in the relationships for. That is why men treat women the way they treat them, buy them nice things, do this for them, take them out, all of these things. Again, I am not saying that you should not treat your woman right. I'm not saying that you should not buy your woman gifts. I'm not saying that you should not do any of these things and, cherish your girl. However, what I'm saying is that men do these things on a more so as a contingent to get sex. They're not doing these things in most cases because the girl deserves it. The man thinks that if he treats her a particular way, she will be happy and she will reward him like a dog, like a puppy, and just pat his head and say, good dog, good puppy, and here's your reward. And that is what I'm saying. A man has to develop that same type of attitude because of speaking from my personal experience. Again, I too was just all about the sex, all about the looks, all about the body until I evolved to the place where I understood my value. I understood what I brought to the table. I understood how I was improving the women's lives that I was with. I understand that how I was making them better in one shape, form, or another. However, in most cases, it was costing me one shape, form, or another as well. And in many cases, shouldn't say many, but a few cases, it actually really was somewhat of a mind-shattering and heartbroken experience because I thought one thing and it was actually the opposite. But when I start to learn game, I always again go ahead and watch my video titled "How Did I Get the Name Triple P?" because I go into extensive detail talking about my sexual history, my dating experience, and again from a very young age, I've always had the ability to get women. I've always had that luck. I've always been fortunate in that area. And again, I'm not saying I was able to get all women, and I'm not saying that I was every woman cup of tea. I may be on a Richter scale, a very low scale to some women. Some women might find me not attractive, some do. However, because I was born with a particular type of confidence and I was born thinking that I was entitled to women that went throughout the ages. However, at some point of time, for a very long time, I still had no sexual discipline. Again, I'm not saying that I was just fucking any bitch off the street. I'm not saying that I was fucking a bitch that shaped like a goddamn doorknob. You understand me? I'm not saying that I was fucking a bitch look like a goddamn car door. You see what I mean? I'm not saying that I was fucking bitches look like a goddamn fucking cubic, what you call that, a Rubik's Cube. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that if a woman was good enough, appealing enough to me physically, looks wise, beauty wise, physical wise, she was good to go. However, that changed over a period of time, and it took me some time to actually develop that skill, that self-worth. But it was until game came into the place when I actually started to come around, be around other true players, other true max gigolos, and one or two P's. Then the game actually elevated, and then it was done. It was then when I said that, you know what, maybe I should just try to get something else out of the deal rather than just sex. You guys go and watch my video again for the like sixth time. How did I get the name Triple P? That's going to give you guys an understanding why they call me Pimp, Prophet, and Priest. So again, when I started to practice, first it started off with, I think it was NoFap, because I too, just like every man, have masturbated pretty much almost all of their lives. If you guys take a survey and you ask how many men masturbate, the survey you're going to hear at least 80 to 90% of the men masturbate. I'm talking about men that has wives. I'm talking about men that have girlfriends. I'm talking about men that fuck a lot and they still masturbate. They still watch porn. So the first thing I think you would have to try to eliminate is the desire to masturbate, because masturbation is a free dopamine fix. It is something that you could do almost anytime, almost anywhere, once you are alone in private. So it doesn't take too long. I mean, some guys might take a long time, but it doesn't take that much effort to masturbate. So men do it as a kind of a dopamine, to get a dopamine high, a dopamine reward, and they feel, you know, it kind of somewhat takes away the sexual urge. So most men don't even come to the point to ever having a wet dream. That is why I said, if you guys watch my video about will wet dreams go away on semen retention, again, most men will never ever have a wet dream because they are constantly either having sex or they are masturbating in between. So again, one of the first obstacles to having sexual discipline is actually learning to overcome the urge to masturbate. And that is why they came up with the concept of NoFap. NoFap means no porn and no masturbation. So again, if you guys could go on YouTube, check out a lot of it. Check my video out, how I did it. I went 6 years without masturbation. So if I could go 6 years, I'm sure someone could go 6 months, someone could go 6 weeks, and someone could go 6 days. I'm not saying you have to go that long, but however, it is now a part of me. I have not masturbated for over 6 years, going on 7 years, and I don't think I ever will. So what I'm saying to you is because I have that under control now. But however, that is one of the first things that a man needs to control, his own personal ability to not masturbate, because it's just him, and masturbation is the only obstacle. So again, like I was saying, I went 6 years, going on 7 years without masturbation, and in the beginning it was somewhat not so easy per se. However, I've done it for so long, I made up my mind. I say, hey, you know what? I think I'm gonna stop this. This is something I need to stop. This is not too cool. And then I was in a relationship, and when I came out of the relationship, I broke up with somebody, or we broke up, or we separated, whichever way you want to put it. I was in a long-term relationship for some time, for a very long time, probably 6 years. I'm not even sure. It could be longer, 6 years, maybe even longer, 7 years. I'm not quite sure. However, when the relationship ended, I felt that it was a perfect time for me to practice some of these things. So I came across NoFap, and then I was like, wow, this is a good opportunity for me to try this thing called NoFap, because just like I said, almost every man at every age, I don't care who you are, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. They have guys 100 trying to still masturbate. I am certain of that in some place somewhere. But so, however, what I'm saying to you is that urge almost never goes away. As long as a man has a certain level of testosterone, he's going to have the desire for sex. And again, the man automatically thinks it's natural or normal. I'm not saying it's abnormal or not natural to masturbate. However, there's a lot that comes along with it. It comes to become an addiction. It's a lot of energy that is taken away from the human body. The man does not know how important and how valuable semen is. Most men do not know how much goes into making semen. Men do not know that semen requires so much. There's a lot of different uh, topics on semen, how much goes into making semen, but I'm just going to go off the top of the head because there's many different variations of this. But one theory is that it takes 40 days and 40 days and 40 drops of food to make one drop of blood. And if I'm incorrect, forgive me, however, because there's more than one version of this. This is just one version. You can go online and look up how much energy goes into making semen, and most likely you'll find some monk or someone in the East telling you what goes into making semen, chai and other things, and so forth and so forth and so on. But back to what one theory says. One theory says that 40 drops, it takes 40 days and 40 drops of food or food fluid to make one drop of blood. And it takes 40 drops of blood to make one drop of marrow. And it takes 40 drops of marrow to make one drop of semen. So I want you guys to understand that is a lot of energy that goes into one drop of semen, because semen is the life force of a man. Semen gives you vitality. Semen makes you get stronger. Your testosterone grows. The body takes that energy and puts that back into all different types of area in the body that the body lacks, because once semen starts to be depleted, the body will take nutrients and different things from different areas. This is a scientific fact. I can't remember what it's called, but the body will take nutrients from all areas of the body to make semen, because semen is based on evolution for a man to procreate and have offspring. So semen is something that could produce semen sperm, something that could produce a child, a living organism. So obviously it carries a lot of information, and that information must be healthy, has all the vitamins, has all the minerals. So a male body prioritizes building semen. So if you are constantly masturbating, ejaculating, whether it be through sexual activities, and you are just constantly releasing, the body is going to go in some type of deficit. And if you do not understand what I'm stating to you guys, I am telling you this is a fact. So again, one of the first things you guys need to do is try to develop some type of discipline in the area of masturbation. Because if you could go 6 days, you could actually go 12 days. In fact, start off with 1 day for some guys. Go 1 day at a time, 1 day, 2 days. Go a week if you can. And if you are single, this is the best time to do it. Go into the relationship already having the sexual discipline. If you are in a relationship, if you just got out of a relationship, you and somebody broke up, this is the perfect time to do it. Because when you are in a relationship, when you have access to sex, it's going to be very, very difficult to do so. So that is what I'm trying to tell you guys. When you guys are single, this is the perfect time to practice sexual discipline. So when you do get back into the relationship, the woman is not going to be able to hold the sex card over you. That is not going to be the trump card that she holds that's going to keep you in line. Because when you have control over your sexual desires, almost nothing, I would say, will be able to control you. Because what's going to happen is, over a period of time, that self-confidence is going to build, that self-confidence is going to grow, and that is going to reflect in other areas of your life. Let's say, for example, you started the NoFap, you just, for your first time in a very long time, you went 6 days without sex. It might be a challenge for you because the body has to adapt. However, you're going to start to feel some type of accomplishment. You're going to start to feel some type of pride about yourself. You're going to start to feel some type of self-worth. And that small 6 days is going to trickle down into something else. You might look around because out of trying to fill that gap, because what's going to happen is you have something called sexual transmutation. Sexual energy is one of the most powerful energies that ever existed. Men do anything for sex. Almost everything that a man does is sex related. The job that a man has, the car that he has, the way that he looks, the body that he has, in most cases, it has to do with trying to achieve sex, trying to get a certain type of woman. Most men do not do the things they do because of women. So there is a lot of energy that goes into getting sex. And what men fail to understand is that, again, there's something called sexual transmutation. When you decide to actually stop from having sex or masturbation, that energy is going to build up and you need to put that energy somewhere else. That is why all dating coaches, all life transformation coaches tell men you need to be on your purpose. You need to have something to actually focus on other than women. You need to have something that supersedes your relationship, because you need to have something that when the relationship falls apart, you will still stand because you have purpose. And so again, sexual transmutation is that simply means that you're going to have to put that sexual energy that you once put into having sex into something, whatever it may be. Your projects, you might have something, you might be a student, put that energy into your schoolwork. Put your focus into your grades. If you have a job, put your energy into getting the promotion. If you have a business, put that energy into making more money. Put that energy into something. The energy must go somewhere. And again, sexual energy is the most potent energy that exists in the world. So men will do anything for sex. However, when they do not have access to sex, in most cases, that is when men decide to finally go to the gym. That is when some men finally decide to go and put more attention into their appearance. That is for the first time some men decide to go and maybe pick up a hobby or habit. In most cases, when women leave men, men tend to improve. In some cases, men go downward, men spiral down. In many cases, men fall apart. However, some men actually pick themselves up from the bootstrap because they don't want what happened to them the last time to happen again. Most men say to themselves, I have to be better, I have to do better, because I don't want my next girlfriend to leave me for another guy. I don't want to fuck with the same type of bitch. I just want a better bitch. I don't want a bitch that look like goddamn Quasimodo. I don't want a goddamn bitch look like goddamn Shaka Zulu. You just want to do better. So that is what men do. Men tend to improve themselves after they are out of a relationship. So again, this sexual transmutation, this energy that you once put into having sex and going after women, you're going to now put that energy into other areas of life, in your life. You may start to actually become a lot more cleaner, a lot more tidier. You might start to say, you know what, I'm going to clean my room up for once and for all. Okay, you know what, I'm going to go clean my car. You know what, I'm going to mow the lawn. Of all these things, you will realize that you have a lot of things that you can use to occupy your time, and you can put that energy to good use rather than chasing bitches, and rather than wasting all your bodily most important and cherished fluids. So again, over a period of time, you're going to transmute that energy into other areas, and then other areas are going to get better, and you're going to improve in other areas, and then your life is going to become better overall. So by the time you get back into your next relationship, you will be a bigger and better and better man. You will not be the same man. You will not be as broken as you once were. When you came into the relationship, you will actually come into the relationship as a better person with more attributes, more better qualities, and more to give. And so therefore, if you have more to give, that means you should have more to get as well. These go simultaneously, giving and receiving. They are the opposite side of the same coin. However, again, the reason you were all shattered and heartbroken when the female left and you actually lost the sex is because you feel that the sex was the only most valuable thing that the woman brought to the table. If you allow the woman to bring something else to the table other than sex, then you would actually treat her in a particular different way rather than just seeing her as just a sex object. However, again, go and watch my video entitled "What Do I Need from a Woman?" So back to sexual discipline. So again, what you will notice over a period of time is after you go against 6 days, your self-confidence is going to build, your self-worth is going to build, and then let's say you make it to 2 weeks. That is a very long time for most men to not have sex. Most men will actually masturbate within 2 weeks. That is almost a given. Don't even talk about a month. A month without sex, without release, is almost unheard of in most men's lives. So again, but what is going to happen is you're going to start to put effort in the other areas. You're going to improve in other areas because that is what happened to me. For example, again, I started the NoFap journey because I felt that this was a perfect time to practice not masturbating because I've masturbated all my life for the most part, at least 95% of my life. I'm not ashamed because I'm here to inspire you guys, to motivate you guys so you guys could do the same as well. Because most men are not going to admit this, but I'm telling you, if most men are honest with themselves, I'm telling you, the best of the best. Guys have rotations and still masturbate because there are still that lust, that physical, that dopamine rush that comes from a sexual release is pretty much almost unchallenged. So again, what happened for me was over a period of time, couple months went by. I can't remember exactly when, but over a period of time, I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to try my best to get rid of other habits. I had other bad habits. I still drank. I still partied heavily, and I smoked. I smoked a lot, a lot of weed. You understand me? I smoked a lot of weed, and then and apparently, unfortunately, I should say, I smoked cigarettes as well. Most people did not know I smoked cigarettes because I always was ashamed of the habit, and only a select few people knew that I did smoke cigarettes because I was a closet smoker. I was never a person that actually walked down the street and had a cigarette in my hand. I was never a person that was comfortable smoking around strangers. I was always a person, I was never comfortable about smoking in public. I don't at an event where there's a lot of people. I always kind of went somewhere and I hid when I wanted to smoke. I never just openly smoked. But however, again, those who knew me personally knew that I smoked cigarettes. And I smoked cigarettes for some time. And one time I went off and on. But I smoked cigarettes for some time. However, after developing the sexual discipline, I said to myself, my confidence grew, and I said to myself, I'm going to really try to stop this particular year. I'm going to try to stop drinking. I'm going to try to stop smoking cigarettes. And in fact, I'm not going to try, I'm going to do it because I started to build such a confidence. I'm talking about maybe I was already, I can't remember, 2 years, 3 years in, 4 years in, already no sex, no masturbation, no girlfriend, but I still was partying hard. I still was smoking weed. I still was drinking, smoking weed, drinking alcohol. I still was smoking cigarettes, and I still was fucking with bitches and hoes. I just was not sleeping with them, but I was getting a bunch of numbers. I was still talking to bitches. I was still flirting with bitches. I was still interacting with a lot of bitches, but I just was not sleeping with them. So again, however, I came to a point, I can't remember how much years later, again, sometime 3 years later, 4 years, I said to myself, I'm going to quit smoking cigarettes. Finally, I'm going to stop drinking alcohol. And finally, I'm going to stop smoking weed. So I decided to face, I didn't go cold turkey on everything. I kind of did it, kind of bit by bit, you know, but the moral of the story is, it was the discipline of having the sexual desires under control made me believe that I could do a lot better. I felt that if I could control this, which most men can't control, I could do anything. You understand me? Like R. Kelly say, I believe I could fly. And that's how I felt. If I had the ability to reject bitches and hoes, if I had the ability to turn down sex, and I don't want you guys to misunderstand and think that I did not have any options. I still have options to this day. I will always have options till the day I die. Triple P, PI, for LI. You know what I'm saying? So anyhow, what I'm saying to you is, it's one thing to not have sex if you don't have any options or you can't do better. That does not count. But if you're a guy that actually can get bitches and hoes and you can have sex and you don't have sex, that is a different story. And that was the case for me as well. I actually was able to have sex, or I was able to attract women. I was still getting numbers. I was still able to actually go on dates if I wanted to. However, I was just not pursuing the women sexually. And it actually turned a lot of women off when I actually went out with one or two and I told them that I didn't necessarily want to have sex with them. It was like I told them, like I was a sin. Some of them really took it the wrong way. However, they did not understand that I was doing some type of celibacy thing at the time. And I told them, I made it clear what I was into at the time. And some took it the hard way and some respected it. However, some were actually insulted that I, choose to be celibate over to have sex with them, because some women believe that how dare you have the ability to reject me sexually. They believe that the box that they have is actually the all be all. They don't believe any man can resist them. So when they do find a man that resists them, they actually go into some type of shock and they need to get some type of therapy after that. But anyhow, so after a period of time, like I said, again, my confidence grew and I decided to go and stop smoking cigarettes, smoking weed, and drinking alcohol. It didn't happen right away. Like I said, I said, you know what, I'm going to try stop smoking cigarettes one day. And I cut back on the cigarette one day. I smoked the other day. Then I went 2 days, I smoked the other day. I didn't go cold turkey. And then I smoked one day, 3 days, and then I stopped 3 days, then I smoked the other day. You know what I'm saying? I kind of just did a little rotation thing. And then I tried to do the same thing with the weed. I did do all of those things at the same time. I will say that I didn't just do it one at a time, because most individuals know that if they drink, who have habits, who drink alcohol, and they smoke cigarettes, they know that they go hand in hand. Most individuals know that if they drink and they smoke weed, they go hand in hand. So it's kind of like you have to stop all two. You cannot just stop one and then leave the other, because if you smoke weed and drink you smoke weed and drink alcohol simultaneously, most likely you're going to have to stop all two, because one is going to trigger the other. When you drink, you're going to say, wow, I need to smoke something. If you smoke cigarettes and you drink, you're going to say, wow, I need to drink something, or I need to smoke something. I think you guys get the picture. So I decided to stop all three simultaneously at the same time. I went one day without drinking, without smoking weed, without smoking cigarette, without drinking. And then the other day I smoked and I drank or whatever. Then I did it for 2 days. And then when I made a week, it was like a week felt like a year. A whole week, no drinking, no smoking. It felt like a year, because I was just accustomed to doing it so frequently. If you do something on a daily basis or every other day, I'm not saying that I was, drinking to the point to where I was on the streets homeless, but however, I was a casual drinker, but again, I drank, nevertheless. So the moral of the story is, after a period of time, like I said, I went 1 week and my confidence grew, and then I knew, having an understanding that it takes 30 days to actually get some habit under control, so the body could get conditioned, the mind could get conditioned for a new habit to be formed or to stop a habit. I know I had to make it at least 30 days, and that was my ultimate goal, to at least go 1 month. And then I achieved 1 month, and I was like, wow, I couldn't believe it. I went 1 month, and I knew also that the next goal was 60 days. And then we all know 90 days is somewhat the ultimate goal to actually stop something. And then after 90 days, I knew that the ultimate goal would be to go a year, because going a year without doing anything is the ultimate goal. Because what most individuals do not understand is that if you decide to stop drinking, let's say for example, you drink but you don't smoke, and you decide to stop drinking, the reason why they say 1 year is because in 1 year, you most likely will experience every situation that you have experienced when you used to drink. Because in 1 year, you will have to go to parties and not drink. In 1 year, your birthday will come up, and that is most difficult for many people. Most people celebrate and party on their birthday. This will be the first birthday of your life that not of your life, but in a long time, that you did not drink. So you will actually have to become accustomed to doing these things for the very first time. Going to parties, not drinking, first time. Going to friends and family members to gatherings, they are drinking, you're not drinking. For holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, big events, New Year's, days like that, everybody most likely drinks and gets a little drink here and there. Even for those who are casual drinkers, they usually drink on occasions like New Year's and Christmas and things of the sort and birthdays. So again, within that year, you are most likely to have experienced everything, all of the situations that's going to give you the confidence that you're not going to be able to actually need to do that particular thing. However, it all began with having sexual discipline. And the sexual discipline all began by practicing spiritual practices such as NoFap, semen retention, and the sacred secretion. Again, so I'm telling you guys that one of the things that you must do is practice semen retention, NoFap, sacred secretion in order to develop the sexual discipline that you need. Because it does not make any sense if you have game and you are a guy and you have the ability to pull bitches, and what's going to happen is the bitches are going to be like, they're going to be taking your energy, your resources, and all of your efforts are going to somewhat dwindle, because the thing that you cannot control is going to take away from you. There are so much men, if you look at it, there are so much successful men in the world who have fell because of women. There are so much men who have fell because of pussy. So much men have been charged with charges that they did not commit, all type of things that women said that they did, that they didn't do, all because they was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Maybe they did have sex with the girl, maybe they did not. Some maybe was a little too aggressive and the woman kind of got freaked out, and the rest was history. I'm sure that you guys know what I'm talking about. So again, but if you had the sexual discipline 99.9.9, at least 100% of the time, that would not happen, because as soon as a woman says no, you would understand no means no. No does not mean maybe so. No does not mean, anything else but no. N-O. So with a guy who does not have sexual discipline, he might take no as being maybe she's being difficult or hard to get, and the next minute he knows he's spending 25 to life behind bars. Who the fuck knows? Just because he could not take no. So again, sexual discipline is not just a harmless thing. You could actually get yourself in a lot of trouble, and you can lose a lot by not having sexual discipline. That is why I'm saying to you guys again, there are many men throughout history. Look at how many guys who have made millions and billions of dollars and have actually went to the cleaners and got taken down by women, all because of sex, not being able to let the woman go when they should have let the woman go. They saw the signs. They didn't know when to let the woman go, because they just love having sex with a woman. She was sexy, she was cute. She made them feel a particular way sexually. She did certain sexual acts, and the man became whipped. The man became pussy whipped, and the man was unable to actually control his desires, and it came back to bite him in the ass. And that is what I'm trying to tell you guys. It is not just a harmless act to not have sexual discipline, because again, what is going to happen is, what does it benefit you if you could get a bunch of women and you could have sex with a bunch of women and you make $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year, and let's say you make $300,000 a year and you spend $200,000 of that on women, and then you spend the other $100,000 on your bills, your house, your cars, your resort, the things that you need to pay for. What does it profit you to take everything that you make and it just goes to the hairy bank? It does not make any sense. It makes more sense to actually sustain yourself and maintain yourself by actually being able to keep your resources and put them into more productive places rather than put them into the hairy bank. So again, that is what I'm trying to tell you guys. Do not underestimate not having sexual discipline, because in the end, it's going to cost you one way, shape, or form or another. And that is what I'm trying to tell you. Do not take this message lightly. Try to at least start practicing NoFap with not being able to masturbate. Go at least 1 week. Try to go couple days if that's the first starting out for you. Couple days, 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, and you will see that this is going to trickle down. It's going to be a snowball effect, and you're going to build confidence in other areas as well. More areas are going to improve. You're going to put more care into, again, your parents, how you look, how you talk, how you walk. Whatever the case may be, there will be some improvement because, again, sexual transmutation, the energy must go somewhere. So, again, it is going to be only a win for you. It's never going to be a loss. I don't want you to think you're going to lose something if you develop sexual discipline. It's only a win because only thing that's going to happen is you're going to get, again, more benefits, so forth and so forth. So with that being said, I think this has been a pretty much informative video as much as I could think of. It's, again, all of these videos are created on top of the dome. I have no script. I'm just speaking to what comes to the mind. So with that being said, again, it does not make sense to just be able to go have women lose your resources, lose your health, lose your strength, lose your finances, and sometimes even lose your life just because you do not have any sexual discipline. Men have lost their lives being in the wrong place at the wrong time, fucking with the wrong bitches. Husbands have came home, boyfriends have came home, men have had to do so many different Houdini escape acts in the name of the box. Men have had to jump through all type of hoops to get away because their lives was on the line, because they went and they fucked with the wrong bitch, knowing well that this girl had a boyfriend, knowing that this girl had a husband, knowing well that this woman lives with a man, and it's a possibility that this man could come home. But again, because of lack of sexual discipline, a man is willing to risk his life. You understand me? So that is what this message is all about. Not just saying that sexual discipline is something that's going to be something that's going to, help you in the short run. It is something going to help you in the long run in every area of life, and you're going to improve in every area of life, and you're going to become a better man in every area of life as well. So with that being said, once again, I thank each and every one of you guys for watching. Please continue to like, share, and subscribe, and all that good stuff. And if you are, as usual, please, please, please stop believing in illusions, delusions, and hallucinations. Triple P, and I'm out.